Hey everyone, it looks like it's working. Yes, I've got a tick. Hey, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our long-awaited Ask Me Anything with Tito Bohrt. My name's Dave Wilkins, co-founder of SDR Leaders of USA. It's so nice. We wanted to do this twice, and we're going to spend the next 45 minutes answering your questions, answering what the hot topics that you want to know as an SDR leader about how to build your function into next year. And the one thing that you're guaranteed in this Ask Me Anything is there's going to be no fluff. We're going to give you actionable, real quality insights into how to help build out your sales development motion. So as Tito is introducing himself, make sure that you put into the chat where you're dialing in from, because we really want to make sure that we're tailoring the answers that we're going to give you to the areas that you're in. So Tito, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and where you're coming from?
Cool. Hi, everybody. I am Tito Bohrt. I've been in the sales development space since 2011. So it's been a really long time. And Dave and I were just talking about some of the, I'm hearing a little bit of background noise. Do you hear some coming
there is
back?
There is a little bit of a, yeah, put your headphones in.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's see, how about now?
It's okay.
Is better?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, beautiful. So I've been in the sales development space for about 14 years. And funny enough, Dave and I, before this session started, we were just talking about some of the articles that I wrote in 2016, 2017. And his old boss, Lars Nilsson, was talking about the SDR death zone. So today we're going to make it fun. We're going to try to answer questions from the audience. But I also have some interesting things that I want to share about the current state of sales development, because I think the world has shifted tremendously over the past many years. We obviously had the COVID boom and bust. There were all those strange moments, like just the speed at which things were changing in those months, from telling people, I hope you're staying safe, things like that, all the way to 3 months later, anybody saying, I hope you're staying safe, getting a really big backlash against it. And I think that the world of sales development is constantly changing. Right now, we're seeing a lot of people using clay tables and spraying and praying like crazy. At the beginning, it was email only. It was like smart lead and just blasting it out. But even companies using outreach nowadays, I see a lot of people building clay tables, pushing data, and trying to do a lot of email, and then moving to like really high volume outbound dials on parallel dialers, regardless if that's Nox or something else. And I think that's starting to come to an end. We're starting to see a big decrease in effectiveness of sales development. Like pickup rates are getting lower and lower and lower. The word on the street is that the virtual receptionists on iPhones that at the beginning were like, oh, they're not going to be a big deal or whatever, those are growing fast. And if you don't know how to get past those, you're in deep trouble.
So maybe that's a good way.
Getting cut. Like all these things are changing right in our faces, and it's all about effectiveness and efficiency.
Yes, maybe that's a really good way to start this off then. So if you had to rebuild an SDR org from zero, 1st of January 2026, what would you do completely different from how it's traditionally done?
I mean, here's what I'll tell you, Dave. I do that for a living, right? So for people who don't know me, I run 2 companies. One is called AltiSales, as a sales development outsourcing and consulting company. And the other one is Caddy, which is a software solution that sits on top of outreach. And what I feel nowadays is any company trying to start an SDR team from scratch, or who like lost their one and only SDR leader and shut the team down and is trying to rebuild, you're going to have the hardest time ever trying to do that, because it just takes so much time and effort and money to go from not having a team to having a great team. In 2014 and 15 and 16, it didn't matter. Like you didn't need to have outreach or Salesloft. Like you were fine with like a Mixmax or a Yesware or whatever other tool. And like you didn't really need ZoomInfo, because you could have just used some like Prospect Hunter or whatever other random tools to just get enough emails. And the email worked well enough where if you sent, certain amount of volume, like you were just fine. But in today's day and age, like if you're not using, especially if you're targeting like mid-market enterprise deals, right? Everything I talk about, just for context, everybody listening, nothing that I talk about is geared towards companies selling a 5K solution or less, or a 10K solution or less. In the 10 to 30K, the majority of what I say applies. But really, what I gear my conversations towards is anybody selling a $30,000 solution or higher. And what you'll find in there is that you have a limited market. So you can no longer do the spray and pray, the smile and dial. And the prospects that we're targeting can sense in seconds that you are just spraying and praying, that you're not being targeted. So if they don't feel like you've spent the time, they also don't want to give you the time. So I think things are changing really rapidly. If you want to win in that segment and you're starting from scratch today, you need to have outreach or self-solved, and I have a preference for outreach. You need to have Zoom info, but also likely lead IQ, and also likely Clay to cascade data and get the best phone numbers and the best emails. You need to have some sort. I hate the parallel dialers, but I'm in for the power dialing. Like, just make it a little bit faster for me to dial, because you need to be making $100 a day at a 3 or 4% connect rate, so you can get 3 or 4 conversations a day. And you need to have like really good emails that are constantly improving. And like, you can't just let the SDRs write all their emails, especially if they're not senior SDRs that have been doing it for 3, 4, 5 years and have gotten all the skills. You're going to get destroyed. So I think marketing ops is a really important element of sales development. I think you need a good SDR leader. I think you need more experienced operators. And I think you need just the right tools. And it becomes an expensive team. You're going to hire 2, 3 SDRs, an SDR manager. You need fractional marketing operations coming and helping. You're easy spending $700K for the year to just test it out.
But Vandana, who is calling in from India, one of our leaders in SDR Leaders of APAC, she also said MOPS as well, is if you're a senior leader where you have you're working with enterprise level, you're an enterprise level organization going after enterprise level businesses, is a SDR operations person kind of one of the first roles that you would hire if you were in that kind of space?
The answer is yes, but it's not just yes, it's why, right? Like, if I grab 100 SDR leaders right now and I say, I'm not going to let you look at your dashboards or data right now, but you got to answer this question approximately. And I say, on your last trade show, like marketing MQL scans that you received from marketing, what was your speed to lead? From the moment you received those leads until like you touch them for the first time, what's your average speed to lead? I can guarantee you that the SDR leaders have no idea. They're clueless, zero. They don't know. And you can only manage what you measure. So things are not getting measured, and therefore things are not getting managed. Next question you're going to ask him, hey, SDR leader, on average, how many touches per prospect do you actually do? Not how many steps does your sequence have. How many touches do you actually do? Nobody has any idea. Yeah. And a lot of people will always assume that those are less than the steps, but I'll tell you what also happens. Sometimes you have a call step and the SDR is calling all 3 numbers. Are those 3 touches, or is that 1 touch? How are you going to measure that? You know, and what's the appropriate number, right? Your sequences. How long does it take from a prospect from the first touch to the last touch on average? Like, are you really following the sequence diligently? And like, your 10 touches in 3 weeks, is it actually 10 touches in 3 weeks? Or do you have so many overdue tasks that it's now, 6 touches in 20 weeks? That's ruined. And because they can't measure it, they can't manage it. And because they can't manage it, they can't improve it. And because they can't improve it, their team's dead. You ask why, what's not working, and they will just tell you things like, well, nobody picks up the phone. But nobody picks up the phone for anybody else either. Like, your phone pickup rate is the same as everybody else in the market. But like, why is your company not working? There's so many things that people aren't even looking into, and those things are destroying their productivity.
So you think that it should be more look at yourself and look at how you're managing this before you're looking externally for assistance?
I mean, both at the same time is not a bad idea, but like, You don't need to spend $60,000 on consulting to redo your sequences if your biggest problem is actually that, you have tens of thousands of overdue tasks.
Yeah.
Like, improving the sequence language is not the problem. So like, can we first identify the problem, right? Everybody will say my connect rate is bad. Okay, but like, is it 0.2%? Then it's actually really bad. Or is it like 4%? Because the SDR will still say nobody picks up the phone at 4% or 0.2.
Sure.
It's still nobody. 96 to 99% of the calls still not getting picked up. So the excuse will be the same, but can we benchmark ourselves and can we look at our data and really find what's the true problem, right? Is it a skill? Is it a process? Is it a tech stack? Like, what's hurting us?
So that's actually a good segue to the next question about what is kind of the single biggest time waster or broken process you're still seeing in SDR teams today?
I do think a lot of that is part of the data research motion. I do think that SDRs have to be strategic and know what accounts they're going after and map a little bit of like their personas. But I would centralize my marketing ops leader running all things data. So like, simple example, everybody's using clay tables today, but like, how should you do it? Should each SDR have their own clay table and they all kind of like enrich at will? I think it's a bad idea because there's learnings that you'll get that should be shared across the team. So I would centralize that. I would have my marketing ops leader or my SDR leader run those clay tables and then push the data towards the SDRs. I think that can be a huge time saver for the team.
Are you seeing that a lot where individual contributors have access to clay and are just using clay themselves? Is that something that you're seeing?
I think it depends. I think there's a lot of small companies that maybe have like a GTM engineer or a marketing consultant that's running some of those clay campaigns. And then it's disjointed because the people running clay campaigns sometimes want to run it out of a smart lead or whatever else. And they just want to control the email side of the house while they think it's still valuable for the SDRs to call. So they might run completely different systems. And I think that gets disjointed, right? Like, somebody's sending the emails and then the same leads are being sent to the SDRs for calling and calling only. There's so many ways to run it today, but I think that everything should run out of one sales engagement platform. The messaging should be constructed there. The SDR should be making calls and emails, and LinkedIn is key too. Depending who you sell to, of course, but I would definitely consider LinkedIn a very important channel, especially when you're targeting the average deal sizes that I'm talking about.
Yeah. And Pat asked about in the question going on in the ticker was about what would you change? And I mean, Patrick said a really good thing here about researching and building the POV. And he's right. You can have all the data in the world, but if the SDR doesn't know what to do and what to say, that's a huge issue. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit more. You mentioned about having the data at the fingertips of the SDRs. Are you in that belief of just give them one view, just to execute on, no admin, don't have to do any research, admin tasks, they just have one place, off they go and execute?
Yeah, so when I think about the process of like getting my data into outreach, I think there's things that are very tedious and then there's things that are very strategic. So the very tedious stuff is like, okay, I mapped the top 7 people I want to reach out to. Let me now go find the phone numbers, the emails, and to upload my data. That is tedious. I don't want my SDR to do that. There's no value gained in finding phone numbers and finding emails, right? But there's tremendous value in figuring out who do I need to reach out to and why. Right before this call, I was doing a training with my team about how to be very strategic. And like, somebody had a cold call, they connected with a prospect on the phone, and the prospect said, can you send me an email? And I was just showing them, how do you go to the person's LinkedIn profile? How do you evaluate the company? And like, how can you like find data and read about the company, read about the person, and create your point of view? Why should they use our product? What are the parts of our product that are helping the most? If they sell $500,000 solutions, like there are certain things that we do better, right? And doesn't matter what company you are. You could be Common Room, right? But like if I'm an SDR for a company like Common Room, and I'm a signals company, you don't just prospect everybody the same way. Like if I'm prospecting to a certain company, I would tell them the types of signals that I think would work for them. You start trying to create segments where, you have a point of view that applies to the companies that are part of that segment.
Okay, great. Let's move on to a question everyone was talking about AI, and how should SDR leaders really be using AI?
What you're going to hear from me is what I've always believed, which is there's so many ways that you can do, utilize AI. And I believe that all those who are using AI for volume are getting a quick boost of success, but that boost is going away very, very quickly. And I think if you're not yet using a lot of AI, if you try to start using AI for volume, you're going to get killed. Like the expectations for what you think it's going to deliver, but versus what's actually going to deliver, it's not going to pan out as well as you think. I want to use AI for higher quality. So like, I'll give you examples. For every campaign that we're running, we create a custom GPT for every customer. So if you're building your own SDR team, you should have a custom, like company-based GPT that has been fed all your case studies, all your customer stories, all your success, all your like who's the right companies to target, CRM notes, emails, conferences, webinars, trade shows. Every piece of information you have, it should be fed into your GPT. And then your SDRs can go and say, hey, is Snowflake a good account for us? Like, can you rate this for me? And the GPT will respond with a 1 to 100 score. And then it'll say, cool. Given Snowflake, like anything I should say about, their SDR team getting better. And like the GPT will respond, yeah, Snowflake sells to engineers. They're very phone heavy. They track LinkedIn. They do this, blah, 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 or whatever, right? Like we can have account history. How have we interacted with Snowflake? And then all those things are contextual and they're going to help us do better. I don't want to use the AI on autopilot to just go and blast things out because it looks AI'd, it sounds AI'd, and we all get way too many messages. I was just looking at my spam folder yesterday because somebody had to send me a calendar invite and I couldn't find it. I went to spam. David, you have no idea. I had no idea how many messages were being filtered into my spam already. But yeah. I am pissed off how many land in my inbox. But there's like 6 as many. Like Google's already filtering about 85% of those emails into spam. And I keep giving them feedback. I'm like, report, block, spam, 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 spam. And I think they're getting the pattern recognition right, where it's just going to be brutal. Like email only as a channel doesn't work. You need to call me if you're going to get my attention. And when you call me, you better have caller ID. And when that works, then you better send me a LinkedIn message. Like if you're not multi-channel right now, you're dead. Email only is not going to work.
No, and I think what you said there is really powerful, especially around that, as you said, that account intelligence piece. That's critical. And then just being human, having that human interaction with somebody over the phone. That's where the power lies in terms of getting somebody engaged, getting somebody realizing the value. Because as you said, I'm sure everybody on this call is getting hundreds of emails, and they're not been written by a human, but how many calls are we getting? And then do we actually listen to those calls and actually go, okay, this is quite interesting. You've got my attention. And I think that's a huge piece that people need to focus on for sure. Let's move on to metrics that matter. So which SDR metrics are totally overrated and which ones actually predict success?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because I think about SDR metrics like I think about like a sports team. So like I'm gonna answer the question with a question. But if we're a basketball team, Dave, what metrics matter?
I know everything about basketball. Offensive rebounds. No.
Yeah, but does that matter more than points?
Very good point. You're getting me in a corner here. Can we not talk about rugby and rugby stats?
Cool, let's do rugby. So let's do rugby stats. What are the metrics that matter in rugby?
Speed of the breakdown. How quick do you get to the rock and clear it out?
But is that more important than the score at the end of the game?
That metric, if you've got that really short time, then the likelihood of you scoring is going to be demonstrably higher.
Right. But at the end of the game, what's the number one metric?
Points.
Yeah. And at the end of the season, what's the number one metric?
Wins.
Correct. So when we think about metrics that matter for SDRs, I think there's the same idea of like, well, the most important metric is revenue generated. Let's not get it confused. But then you need to go a layer deeper. And to generate revenue, what do you need? Well, you need meetings that convert into pipeline, and then pipeline that converts into revenue. So now your revenue gets split into meetings, pipeline conversion, and conversion from pipeline to revenue. And then we can look at like the next piece, like, pipeline to revenue is going to be more on the AE side. So if we just keep the other two, meetings, okay, what's going to get us meetings? Well, then we got to look at it maybe even potentially per channel. Is dials made times connect rate. That gets you the number of connections not times connect to meeting will get you the number of meetings. So that's on the phone. On email, it will be email sent to reply rate to positive reply rate, positive replies to conversion into meeting will get you meetings. LinkedIn activity, you'll have the same. So you can start going down and up. And as you say, there's going to be interesting elements like speed of breakout and rugby might be the equivalent of speed to lead in handling MQLs. If you go to the Dreamforce conference and you come back, what we know is there's actually both of the tails win. If you're one of the first 3 people to email a prospect after the conference, you will win. Also, if you re-email them back 4 months later, you will win. The people who get killed is, I just got 7 emails about Salesforce, and you're number 8, you're dead. I'm not responding. Yeah. I just don't, my inbox is crowded. I'm too busy now. And then if you're number 8 up to number 30, or number 100, if you're in that next 2 weeks, you're dead. I'm not going to pay attention to you. So I think when it comes to MQLs, what we've seen works the best is email people really, really shortly after an event, but you got to be one of the fastest companies in lead processing, and then email them 2 or 3 months later.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So conference subject line, right? Catch up after Dreamforce 2025. You email people in December or in January. They went to Dreamforce in what? September, October? They're like, oh yeah, finally I'm out of the water, right? I was drowning. So I think the metrics, you got to go look at a lot of things. And sometimes you don't even know that there's things that are hurting you. A lot of people have no idea how many failed leads, overdue tasks, skipped steps, how many calls that the SDRs are making are really short, aka they call and hang up, or how often are they calling the same number? How often does each phone number get called? If you put a person in sequence, are their phone numbers being called 2 times, 4 times, 7 times, 20 times? It also happens that somebody grabs and I'll just keep using Snowflake as an example, but we upload 50 leads from Snowflake. Guess what? All 50 leads have the HQ number, and we have 7 steps in the sequence that are phone calls. So we have 50 leads times 7 steps. There's 350 steps that we need to make, and everybody has a HQ number. And guess what happens? The SDRs call that HQ number 350 times with 0 connect rate. Next time that there's a call task for Snowflake, they call the HQ again.
Yeah.
That's just borderline ridiculous. Really? Yeah. We've called that number 350 times with a 0% connect rate, and you're going to call it the number 351 again? Stop calling the HQ at Snowflake. They never pick up. Move on. But you need somebody in the marketing operations or in SDR operations to just think about that data and say, how can I get a list of phone numbers that have been called more than 50 times and have 0 pickups? And can I just take them out of outreach? And funny enough, Caddy, the tool I built, that's one of the many automations we do. Any phone number that you've called more than, you can decide, 30 times, 40 times, 50 times, 100 times, with 0 pickups, we can just yank it out. We'll mark it as invalid, and you can no longer call that phone number. So it's actually cool. It increases your connect rate simply by removing bad data. It's genius.
Great. Check it out. Check it out. Let's move on now to talk about when pipeline suddenly tanks. This does happen to many leaders, where suddenly just there's no meeting being booked, there's no pipeline being generated. So if that's something that happened to you, Tito, where's the first place you look to figure out why that pipeline is suddenly tanking?
When the results are 0 or close to 0, you cannot look at quantitative data. You have to look at qualitative data, right? So, for example, we're going to go back to the rugby idea. If your rugby team has scored 0 points, what would you train them on? Well, before I decide what I train them on, I would go look at game tape. Like, are we not scoring points because we're really bad at like passing the ball? Is it because like we're not strong enough? Is it because we're getting tackled too easily? Is it because that when we like fall to the ground, we're trying to push the ball back to my teammate and I get it stolen? Is it the turnovers? Is it like, where are we weak? What is everybody else doing that is working for them? And where are we so significantly weaker? Because you might think like, oh no, it's my speed, it's my running, and you have the team running like crazy. But like, if you were to actually look at the game tape, it's actually turnovers. So it wasn't about running faster. You're never going to outrun the whole other team by yourself. You just need to take care of the ball, pass it sooner. Like, don't commit the turnovers. So that, I think that's one of the hardest things, Dave, where when things aren't working, it doesn't even need to be they aren't working for the team. It could be they aren't working for like a few people. Like, you might have a team of 8, 3 of them are killing it, 3 of them are doing okay, and 2 of them are just not doing well whatsoever. Like, they're at 0 or 1 meetings per month. You got to watch game tape. And what that looks like is you got to review every email reply that they get and every email that they're sending where there's a reply. So every interaction where there's a reply, you got to review that. And then you got to review every connected call. Just listen to the call. You'll find immediately huge mistakes because getting 0 is just not acceptable.
Yeah. Good knowledge on rugby as well.
Somewhat. I like sports.
Yeah, that was good. So let's talk about like great leaders versus good managers. What's kind of the biggest difference you see between good and great?
I mean, what is shocking and what is annoying about the world of sales development is that a lot of SDR leaders have just become SDR leaders by getting promoted from the SDR role. And they've gotten very little training. Even when I have promoted SDRs to SDR managers, I've had to train them a lot. Like, how do you run one-on-ones? How do you have conversations about career paths? How do you motivate the reps? How do you keep them accountable? And I've heard so many horror stories. Like, I was talking to an SDR leader and I was like, wait, but you said you want your SDRs to be making 60 calls a day, but like out of your team of 5, you have 2 reps that are like 25 calls a day. Like, why are they not at 60? And the answer I got was, well, I told them they're going to be at 60, but they're just not wanting to do it. So my hands are tied. I was like, wait, what do you mean your hands are tied? You're the leader. Like, your hands are not tied. Like, if I was a director or a VP at a company where somebody comes and says my hands are tied because I told them to do X and they didn't do it, so I can't do anything about it, you're dead. Like, you got to learn how to escalate. And I don't mean go fire the rep. I mean, if you're a really great leader, you're going to escalate. Like, first thing, learn about your rep. What are their motivations? Where do they want to get to? Do they want to get a promotion? Do they want to make more money? What are they trying to do? If they are the type of person that they're like, Tito, let me be honest, as an SDR, here's what I want. I just want to sit on my ass and do nothing all day. I'm going to pretend to work, and I'm actually just going to, be on my phone playing video games. And I just want you to pay me my base salary. That's not somebody I want to hire. So that rep I want to fire. But anybody else who says, Tito, I'm money motivated. I want to make more money, but the commissions kind of suck. You got to go fight for the commission structure and like change the commission structure. If they want to get promoted, you're going to make their increased calls be about their promotion. Like, Dave, you want to become an AE? Well, when AE positions open, I can vouch for you, but here's what we need. Like, I need you to prove to me that you work hard and that you learn quickly. So if I need to tell you 10 times that your call is going to go from 25 to 60 before you actually do that, how am I going to make you an AE? I'm going to have 100 things that you need to change. And if each thing is going to take 10 times to tell you to change it for them to change, I just won't have the patience. I can't recommend you as an AE to the next level, right? So like you start learning where they want to get to, and you help them understand that like doing high quality work is how you get ahead. And like if they're not doing high quality work, you're going to help them improve. I do think that what we really, really, really need is, I don't know, somebody to start putting effort towards coaching SDR leaders better. I don't think there's enough resources, courses, books out there that are great. But I also don't think that SDRs have the budget or SDR leaders have the budget to go spend and buy stuff. Like I would build an SDR leadership course. I just don't think it's worth my time. I'm going to spend 100 hours on it, and I'm going to have like 3 people tell me, oh, it's more than $20 a month. I can't buy it. So like, it's hard. It's a hard economy.
Yeah. And I think you're right. It's one of the big reasons for having SDR Leaders for USA as well, and our other communities around the world, is giving people that free knowledge of what it takes to become a real kind of great leader. And part of it is how to fight for budget for yourself and the value that it's going to bring to the business, and how to articulate that as well. I think that's a huge piece that you see the VPs of the world, they know how to do it, but it's not a knowledge piece that's really shared. I don't know why, but they need that kind of knowledge of how to fight for those things is so critical. So if you could have 2 or 3 pieces, what defines then you're a great SDR leader? 2 or 3 things.
It's funny. I so think that sales development is just like a sport. So it's like saying, 2 or 3 things. What makes a great rugby player? And the answer is it's impossible, because to be great, you can't just have 3 things, right? And it's also like, what's your level of understanding or lens, right? If you look at Roger Federer and you look at me playing tennis, let's go to a different sport that might be more popular for everybody in the world. But we go to tennis, right? Basketball is not as popular in Europe, and I guess rugby is not as popular in the US. So let's go to tennis. But if we go to tennis, if you're an alien or if you've never seen anybody play tennis, and you see a video of Roger Federer playing tennis, and you look at me playing tennis, and I tell you, that's a forehand, here's a forehand. That's a backhand, here's a backhand. That's a serve, here's a serve. That's a volley, here's a volley. An alien who's never seen tennis would look at me and Roger Federer and just say, it's about the same. Like, they're not that different. Anybody who's played tennis 5 times in their life will look at me playing tennis and Roger Federer and will laugh that I'm like horrible, right? So you got to know to evaluate things with the right lens. This happens a lot, right? If you know nothing about cars, a Volkswagen Beetle and an F1 car look about the same. They both have 4 wheels. They have a steering wheel. They have an accelerator. They both have an engine. Seatbelt, check. I mean, really? Is an F1 car so different from a Volkswagen Beetle? They look right about the same. You press a pedal and it goes forward. Like, I don't see the difference. But to anybody who likes racing cars, like, they can come down to tell you about like the millimeters in the design of the engine and the aerodynamics of the car, and like how all these things matter so much. So the question is like, at what league do you want to play? right? They're SDR leaders who are never going to play in the major leagues because they don't know the nuances of the engines. And then there's people who don't even care to play there because they don't need to, or they don't want to get there, right? But if you ever want to become a VP of sales development and you really want to get to the top level, you need to understand all your metrics really, really deep. And you need to know hundreds of metrics and know how they correlate. Like, how do overdue tasks affect your bounce rate? If you can't draw the line between those two dots, then you're in trouble. Like, you're not worthy of being pro, right? Now, if you're managing a very junior team, do you care? That might not be the most important metric. So I think a very good skill is be able to assess your team consistently, look at what's going on, find what are two types of things you need to find consistently. What are strategic changes you need to make? Because long-term, you're going to get killed if you don't change those. And then what are low-hanging fruit things you can change this week to make your team a little bit better? Like, I believe anybody who's parallel dialing, give it 3 years, you're dead. You're dead. Because you're not going to get connected to the virtual assistants. Everybody's going to have a virtual assistant. You're only going to connect with junior people. Your voicemail drops are, super generic. People listen to it, they delete them. Like, your efficiency is going to continue to go down. You're going to be dead. So I think a strategic change for everybody doing parallel dialing is to move to power dialing and to be more strategic, right? At the same time, if you have, I'll go to the same idea. Like, if your SDRs are skipping 30% of the steps that they have in sequence, that's the thing you got to change right now. You either got to change the order of your sequence or the structure. There's things that you got to improve, and you can change that this week. It's hard for you to move everybody from parallel dialing to power dialing this week. Like, you're probably invested a bunch of money on parallel dialing. You're paying hundreds of dollars per user per month on parallel dialing. So making that switch is also like hard for even the finance team to admit that they spent $300 or $400 per user per month on like Orem or Nooks, and actually you're going to use a strategy that would only require $50 to $150 worth of investment. So it feels like a lot of money wasted.
So yeah, thanks for that. So I think if you put in the as a question, tag an SDR leader that you feel fits that description definition, I think it'd be really good to give a shout out to some people as well. Let them know that they're at that level. So please do. And we had a question as well that came in from Eric Bauer, and he asked this: can Tito describe what his opinion is on a message that sounds like AI?
I'll give you lots of examples. I'm gonna go to my LinkedIn inbox and just if you see and this actually just happened. So I got a message that say, like, I got an inbound message on Friday. It said, "Hey Tito, quick question. Is your company actively doing outbound right now? If so, who leads it internally?" Yeah, I see you laughing, Dave, because like, I am the king of sales development outbound. I talk about this all the time. If they spend 2 seconds in looking at both what my company does as a business, we are a sales development outsourcing company doing outbound all day, every day. Number two, if you go look at the employees of the company, you'll find who leads it. Like, that sounds like lazy AI. They just find a list of CEOs directly from Clay, blast out a message asking some stupid AI question, right? Like, what do you do? And I literally just replied, ha, 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 ha. Can you change your title to head of spray and pray? I don't think the head of GTM suits you. Don't be lazy. Do your research before you ask CEO questions that you can find on your own. Just friendly advice, right? And then she responded, "I was doing my research. This is a small campaign with people who I'm already connected. Yes, it's automated, but it wouldn't count as spray and pray." Just to justify her value that she just sprayed and prayed using some sort of like AI automation tool. And then I say, I'm literally going to block this person on LinkedIn because what a waste. But I said, you inspired a post about this. I posted about how I get so annoyed by these messages. And she just says, "Oh, thanks for posting about me. I'm flattered."
Okay.
That has to be an AI response. Like, there's no way that somebody, humans, is not about what you say. It's many times about what you mean. And I teach my reps. It's not about the words you say. It's about what you communicate in between those words. And there's a lot of people who refuse to go the extra mile and learn to communicate at a higher level of intelligence. The AI communicates at level 1. It's purely the words it hears and and it spits out the words. It doesn't understand hidden meaning, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If I look and I said, Dave, I love your beard. It gives you a very young look. Wink.
Yeah.
AI would get confused. It'd be like, well, Dave Wilkins probably is a very young looking person. And I would be like, no, I actually really like the white on the beard because it makes you actually really senior. But me saying the young look is like second level of communication. It's like a playfulness on words. It's like, but AI is never playful. So I think that's what I mean when I say I can notice that your communication is very dumb in its words it uses.
Yeah. Nice one. Hopefully that's helped answer that for you, Eric. So we're coming up near to the end now. I'll have like 2 minutes for this final question, Tito. So we're at 1st of January. Oh no, let's even go halfway through the year 2026. What does a top performing SDR org look like in July 2026?
I think each SDR has their top 10 accounts perfectly mapped. They have already made sure they have all the right buyer personas. They have a really good hypothesis of why this company should use their product. They have account level notes. They know exactly how many calls and how many emails they have made into this account. They know how many LinkedIn messages they've sent. They have a really strategic vision of how to penetrate this account, and they understand the business value of working together. I think that's number one. Number two, they have a very metrics and data-driven team that is constantly looking at the effectiveness of different channels. I think they have a marketing ops team dedicated to make sure that their phone numbers are not showing as spam likely or potential scam. They're making sure that the emails are going out, semi-personalized or personalized, and that they're not blasting. They're making sure they're not getting caught up in spam. They have optimized, all the inbox settings, DMARC, DKIM, SPF, all that stuff, so that they're landing in the inbox. I think they're using caller ID or things like that. Caller ID is the ability to show the name of the rep on the screen of the prospect cell phone. Another of the beautiful features that we all have also built inside of Caddy. Anybody you call, you can show the name of the rep. And what that does is it gets people to not only pick up their phone at a higher rate, but they go look at LinkedIn, they go look at email. I think a top performing SDR organization is using LinkedIn activity tracking, not only tasks completed as some sales engagement tools allow you to do, but messages sent, messages received, how many of those messages are positive, neutral, negative, and where the managers have visibility into how the SDRs are working those LinkedIn messages to be able to coach on what would you have said instead if you were the SDR. I think your bounce rate is under 2%. You've made sure your data is clean. I think you're using some sort of power dialer because 96% of the calls are not being picked up. And every time the call is not picked up, it just auto dispositions. But when the calls get picked up, you're having the LinkedIn profile, the account level notes, the website of the company all pull up all at the same time. So you can have a contextual high value conversation. I think the SDRs know exactly the value prop according to the different buyer personas that they have. And I don't think this looks like a huge team. I think teams are much better off cutting headcount by 20% and only keeping the 80% that's the best and continue to make them better. If I had a huge budget and I was a team of 100 SDRs, my 2026 plan would be we're going to cut headcount by 20% and we're not going to lower the number of meetings we're going to get from the team. Because my worst performing reps, not only are they less effective and less efficient, they are also getting leads that are high quality and they're not converting them at the same rate. So if I just reshuffle the leads and send the best leads to my best reps, my efficiency goes up on my lower quality leads get discarded. So I think there's a lot of little things here that can be improved. And I think SDR leaders have to rush to go make those changes.
Great way to end it. So, hey, thanks, Tito, for that. That was fantastic. Thanks for the questions that we had in the chat. Is there anywhere that people can follow you to see more of this gold that you said today?
Yeah, first of all, a lot of things that I preach and I talk about, I have a company that's developing a lot of these solutions for the market because we test them at our agency at altisales.com, and we prove that they work. Then we start building them into our tech stack. So you can find all about these ideas from LinkedIn tracking to caller ID to account planning, all that at GTM Caddy. GTMcaddy.io is the website for that. You can find me personally on LinkedIn, Tito Bohrt, super simple. I'm the sales mad scientist. You can follow me, set up notifications. I don't post all the time. I post maybe 2 or 3 times a week at the most, but every time I post is because I have a strong opinion or I think something worth saying. And yeah, looking forward to continue to have great conversations with SDR leaders and keep sharing what's working for other teams.
That's great. Thank you, Tito, for that. And thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining. And we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Dave.
No worries. I think it's ended.